Hey folks, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. We're going to grow some pumpkin pits. In this area of my yard, I had some trees long ago, and they were 25 years old, 30-year-old trees, and they were at the end of their life cycle. We took them out so that we could expand our garden and plant a little apple orchard over here and grow some things in this space. Well, the problem is the ground here is filled with gigantic roots, and so we can't really build a garden in the ground, and everywhere we dig, we've got to cut those roots out. But I want to use this space, and there's a real simple way that you can grow in just a single hole. And I like pumpkins, I like watermelons, I like all kinds of melons like that. So we're going to grow some melon pits. This is the third year I've done this, so I'm calling it version 3.0. Melon pits are an easy way to make use of a small space, but melons like to sprawl out too. So I want the melons to serve as a ground cover in this area. I want it to cover and suppress growth. I don't want my Bradford pear trees that used to be here starting to come up again from the roots, and all in this area, some of them are. So if I can use this space for my apple trees, I can grow an understory ground cover of melons and watermelons and things like that, and they like to sprawl out. This is a Kogigu pumpkin, and I grew this one last year, Cucurbita machata, and this is the last one I have. They store really well, and I'm going to try to get some seeds out of this guy and see if I can't start these up, but I'm also going to plant a new variety I've found. I found this variety called South Anna, and the South Anna is a butternut squash. I got it at Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. South Anna is still being hybridized. It's a hybrid between a butternut squash, a typical butternut, and a Seminole pumpkin. Seminole pumpkin is what I'd really like to grow here. It's native to tropical and subtropical areas, and it's very resistant to all the diseases that, especially the vine borers, all the pests that come and drill your pumpkins and kill them. That's the biggest thing. So I only grow the varieties that are in the species Cucurbita machata. You can often find Cucurbita pepo, Cucurbita maxima. These are all winter squashes and summer squashes, but Cucurbita machata has a big variety of cultivars in it, and they do well in these hot areas where the vine borers come. And the reason they do so well is as they vine out, when the vine touches the ground elsewhere in your garden or in your bed, you could cover that with a little soil and it'll take root there. And so when the vine borer moth comes and she lays her eggs somewhere on your plant, those vine borers are going to drill into the vine of the plant and kill it. But it's only going to kill that section because, well, the vine's rooted further down and it can keep going. And so that's one way you can overcome the vine borer moths. And boy, do we have vine borers here. I see the moths in the garden, and yeah, we always get hit. But last year I was able to grow these Cucurbita machatas, the Kogigu variety from Japan. I got a really good return from the labor. We're going to do some pumpkin pits. Let me talk about that. Now you can see there, I've got some pretty big roots from the trees that formerly occupied this space. I'm going to have to cut those roots out. Phoebe there, looking for grubs and worms, huh? Hole inspector. Every now and then in this black gumbo clay, I find a vein of sand, probably fill dirt from the companies that built this neighborhood and threw all this clay up here from our street area. All right. Move, Phoebe. Look out, Phoebe. Move. Okay, so the idea, let's sit here. Okay, so the idea of a pumpkin pit or a melon pit is that you dig a hole about 1.5 feet to 2 feet deep. The deeper the better. But I got a lot of roots down in here. And what you do then, melons and pumpkins can use compost that's not been composted. They have a way of getting in there and mining the nutrients. So you can compost in this pit. You can compost in place there. So what you do is you take all the rotten food out of your fridge that's been left over. You take dead rats, dead squirrels, lasagna, green grass, whatever it is that you've got that can compost down that's high in nitrogen and high in nutrients, throw it in the bottom of that hole. And you dig it deep so your dog won't come and dig it up again. But you put that down in there, and then you backfill with all your soil you've taken out. You mound up a little hill, and you plant your seeds directly in that. And those pumpkins and those melons will send their roots down. And when they find that stuff down there, well, it's their decision. They can use it or they can go around it if it's still a little too hot. Melons and pumpkins are really adapted to this kind of growing. And so you fertilized your soil. You've got a small space here, and let those things come out and sprawl all around. I first learned about this from David the Good. He learned about it and started practicing it, but I learned about it from David the Good, and I've done this for a couple of years now. It's a very good way to grow melons. I have some things that I've saved. I've got some old steak bones, some old asparagus, some more steak. I've got some shrimp Victoria, and we're going to drop this down here. But first I'm going to have to take Phoebe inside while I'm doing this, because the hole inspector is interested in what's going in there, and I don't want her knowing what's down there. Come on, let's go in. Come. So this is a great way of getting rid of kitchen scraps and using it, eating it later in your produce. So that's got a lot of milk, cream. I forget what else is in it. There's some shrimp in here. Yeah, we got some steak here. I'm gonna throw that in there. A couple of steaks. I'm gonna throw some asparagus and steak bones in there. And all this stuff will break down in here and compost in place, and you won't have to smell it. So we're gonna shovel some soil over that. I'm gonna kind of break up the soil a bit because there's a layer of heavy clay. That black gumbo clay in here is, well, sometimes it's hard to grow in. Break this up real good because we have to plant seeds in it. And I'll show you a trick. I'll show you a trick for planting seeds. When you plant seeds, you want them to be in good contact with the soil. And so this soil is pretty coarse right in here. So what I'm going to do is bring in a little bit of finer soil on the top and build up a mound. Again, this method is good for plants that can tolerate fresh compost, like melons. I think cucumbers could probably do well in a pit like this. Get some of this woodiness out. Lots of roots down in here. All right, so here's how we make this work. I have here a bucket of compost and potting soil all mixed together, and I'm just going to kind of pile that on top, remove my old labels from there. And we're going to make a mound. So we've got a nice little mound here, a little cap on top of our pit. I like to kind of pack it down. This is going to settle as the water and the rain comes and gets down in there and settles all this material down in here. But now all we need to do is make a few little holes in the mound, plant a bunch of seeds in here, and we'll thin them out. I like to plant about that many. What's that, 7 seeds? And see what comes up. All right, let's go get the seeds. Okay, once again, I'm planting this South Anna butternut, and we're going to drop this in here. 1 seed per hole. You want to plant these winter squashes. They're called winter squashes because they store throughout the winter. They're not called winter squashes because you necessarily plant them in the winter. So 1 seed in a hole, and if we don't get any germination, we'll come back and plant again in another week. And then just cover them over and pat them down. We have now planted our winter squash in this pit. I'm going to make several other pits. I have some watermelon to grow. I have another kind of cucurbita moschata to grow as well. And yeah, we'll follow this throughout the season and show you the pumpkins we get, Lord willing. You always want to water in your seeds really well, and that'll settle the soil in around the seeds and give those seeds a good start. This material was a little bit moist already, but it's all going to wick down into that dry clay that we just put beneath it, so I'm going to water in really well. I like to use my watering can when I'm watering this compost or potting mix or something like that. it's so loose and I don't want to erode it all away with the high pressure of the hose. There we go. Now I need to put something around this, or Phoebe there is going to come and dig in here. So let me find a bit of fencing or something I can use here until these plants come up. Phoebe's smart enough, she knows not to dig in something where there's plants. But if there's fresh dirt and ground that's been disturbed, yeah, that's an invitation. Isn't that right, Phoebe? Speak. Speak. There you go. Well, I don't have much use for tomato cages this year, since I'm trellising my tomatoes upstring, so I can repurpose this as an anti-corgi fence. And this will just alert my dog that she's not supposed to go into here. And we've hit a root. I have to reorient. I want to get down low enough to her level where this first rung kind of forms a blockage for her. There we go. Okay, so that's our melon pit. This is a time-tested, proven method. Even the Native Americans knew that if you put fish and meat high in nitrogen in the bottom of a hole where you're going to plant plants, that's going to feed your plants. It's going to break down over time, and you'll have a good year to year and a half of good fertile soil there. And you can go dig up a former melon pit and you can find nothing but really rich soil down in there. It's a good way to grow. I hope you should try it. Hey, thanks for joining us on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Try this method. Let me know if it works for you. Subscribe to our channel. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.